It was the kind of summer night that should have been forgettable. June 6, 1992, in Springfield, Missouri. Graduation parties, laughter, and the promise of adulthood filled the air. But for three women, 47-year-old Sherrill Levitt, her 19-year-old daughter Suzie Streeter, and Suzie's best friend, 18-year-old Stacy McCall, that night would end in one of the most baffling disappearances in American history. By the next morning, all three were gone. No signs of struggle, no forced entry, no robbery. Just a quiet, spotless house with their purses, cars, keys, and cigarettes all left behind, as if they'd simply evaporated into thin air. Suzie and Stacy had been celebrating their high school graduation that evening. They attended several parties, made plans to stay overnight at a friend's house, and later decided to head back to Suzie's home instead, where her mother Sherrill was already asleep. They were last seen around 2:15 a.m. The next morning, friends came by to pick them up for a trip to a water park. They found the front door unlocked. The porch light's glass globe was shattered. Inside, the house looked neat, almost too neat. All three women's cars were in the driveway. Their purses were lined up side by side inside the living room. Their clothes were folded neatly. Even Sherrill's bed appeared to have been slept in. One of the friends, uneasy but not yet panicking, cleaned up the broken porch light and even answered phone calls that morning, one of which was reportedly from an unknown man who made obscene sexual comments before hanging up. That moment, though minor at the time, would later haunt the investigation. By afternoon, when no one could reach the three women, panic set in. Police arrived, but what followed is one of the most criticized crime scene investigations in U.S. history. Friends, family, and even curious neighbors walked through the house before detectives could seal it off. Fingerprints were smudged, possible evidence was moved, what could have been crucial clues were lost forever. Theories quickly emerged. Some believed the women had been abducted by someone they knew, possibly coerced into leaving the home willingly. Others suspected a random break-in, a serial predator, or even multiple attackers. But nothing fit perfectly. There were no signs of forced entry or struggle. No screams, no blood, no neighbors reporting strange sounds. Detectives investigated every lead imaginable. Known criminals in the area were questioned, including one man, a convicted kidnapper, who later hinted he knew what happened to the women. He allegedly told another inmate that their bodies had been buried under the parking lot of a local hospital being built at the time. Police even conducted a ground-penetrating radar scan years later, which detected three suspicious anomalies consistent with grave-sized shapes, but the area was never excavated due to lack of definitive evidence. Another suspect, a transient man with a history of violence toward women, was briefly investigated after reportedly confessing to a cellmate that he'd taken care of the Springfield women. But his story kept changing, and investigators couldn't corroborate a single detail. Over the decades, countless theories have surfaced. Everything from human trafficking to a serial killer operating in the Ozarks, even claims that the women stumbled onto something criminal that night and were silenced for it. But the strangest part remains the total absence of physical evidence. No bodies, no blood, no DNA, just three women who vanished without a trace from a safe suburban home in the middle of the night. The case devastated the Springfield community. Sherrill Levitt was known as a hard-working, kind woman who adored her daughter. Suzie and Stacy were inseparable, bright, fun, and planning their future. Friends described them as the last people who'd ever attract trouble. To this day, the house they vanished from still stands, remodeled and resold over the years, but locals say it carries an eerie silence. Many believe whoever took them knew the layout, maybe even knew one of them personally. Some former detectives now believe it was a crime of opportunity that spiraled into something much darker. Over 30 years later, the Springfield 3 case remains open. Despite hundreds of leads and national media coverage, there's never been an arrest or recovery. The mothers of Stacy and Suzie spent years begging for answers, never giving up hope of finding their daughters. Today, the case is a chilling reminder of how fragile normal life can be. Three women, three lives, gone in an instant, and the only thing left behind is a locked house full of unanswered questions. The Springfield 3 are still missing. Their families still wait, and their disappearance still haunts one quiet neighborhood in Missouri, where nobody ever expected evil to knock on their door. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.